What's going on, guys? Very good evening to you all. It's your boy Boxing Lowdown here, and we are back with another podcast, episode number 32. You know how we do it, man. We're streaming live on Twitter and YouTube. If you guys are in the comments, feel free to drop a comment, like the video, share, and subscribe. Like I said, very good evening to you all, man. We're ready to cook on another show for you guys today. But as first, let me introduce my co-host, my father, the main man, Mr. Controversial, Mr. Laurie from AFTV. What's happening, man?
In the house, man. In the house. In the house. What you saying, man?
Very well, man. Got Laurie from AFTV in the house, man. I feel like we got another good show today. The last few shows have been on fire. I think we got another good one today, man. We got a lot to talk about, as always. Can't wait to chop it up and cook with you all. And listen, man, the comments are coming through already. Big up Conrad in the chat. Do you know what I mean? He's put the gloves up. He's ready. WM has put Laurie is my new best friend. So yeah. WM in the chat, man. Yeah, him and Laurie were going at it, man. Big up. Nah, all good, man. It's all banter. It's all good.
Oh, it's all good, man. I respect. First of all, I respect anybody that comes on this platform to air their views. And WM, man, he seems like he knows his stuff. So you have to respect that. Whether we agree or disagree, the respect is mutual. That's how we like to do it. You know what I mean? All good.
Big up Harvey in the chat. He's ready. WM has said, tell him I said hi. Team Hearn. JC has put here Papa Lowdown. So yeah, for sure, man. Papa Lowdown is in the house today. WM has put round 2. All right, let's go, man. Let's cook today. Very good show in hand for you, man. I'll just say, first of all, we did our reaction video with regards to Anthony Joshua and Tyson Fury with that fight on the brink of collapse. We'll talk about that a bit more later on in the show. But I wanted to, obviously, we did the show on Tuesday where we spoke about that. But this show here, I think we need to talk about the undisputed title fight this weekend, man. It would be shameful if we didn't give it the sort of coverage it deserved. So we're going to be previewing that on today's show. We'll talk about, the Joshua and Fury situation a bit more. We'll talk about Bowatsy. We'll talk about Figueroa. And, we'll chop it up for the next hour or so, man. So let's talk, man. Let's get on with it. This weekend, bit of a shame, really, that this big showdown, undisputed title fight in the junior welterweight division, 2 unbeaten champions, Josh Taylor and Jose Ramirez going at it. Very entertaining fight in hand. Very good fight. But it's kind of been swept under the carpet with all of this news in the heavyweight division and the non-undisputed title fight that it doesn't look like we're going to get to see. I'm really looking forward to this fight, man. I watched the Blood, Sweat and Tears documentary. I don't know if you've seen it yet, but unfortunately, this fight hasn't got the sort of press coverage it deserves in terms of what they're bringing to boxing, man. So first of all, I just want to say salute to Josh Taylor and Jose Ramirez. It's good to see them two getting it on. Both of these guys, are putting it all on the line. And Laurie, give me your thoughts, man.
Yeah, I agree with absolutely everything you said in your introduction there, man. I mean, it's a shame this fight has kind of flown under the radar and it's not been given the attention and the spotlight it deserves. But having said that, man, it's a hell of a fight. This is one of those genuine 50-50 fights that even as of now, I mean, I've been thinking about it for weeks now, and I gave it some deeper thought in the days leading into this show, and again this morning, and again this afternoon when we spoke to each other and you said that we were going to be going live at 6. And I'm being honest, even now, I can't tell you with any real conviction who I think will win. I mean, I'm leaning towards Josh Taylor, but then every time I think about that, I think, well, maybe the fact that Ramirez is boxing at home, the fight's in Vegas and he's from Texas way. He's the American guy and he's going to have a lot of support. I'm thinking that politically, it might go his way. So I don't know, man. I think you know what? The one thing I'm fairly consistent upon is that it's going to be an excellent fight. It's going to be a competitive fight. And I'm kind of thinking that whoever wins, the other party is going to think that they probably did enough to win. So they're probably going to get a rematch.
Yeah.
As you know, I'm not a big fan of rematches, but this might be one of those fights where a rematch is actually justified. I don't know. We'll have to wait and see. But yeah, in answer to your question, man, I'm looking forward to it tremendously. And like you said, it's a shame that it's not got the build up. The build up to this fight has not had the attention and the spotlight it no doubt deserves.
What I will say is, What do you think about this? And what do the guys in the chat think about this as well? Quickly go to some comments here. Conrad has put here, Taylor versus Crawford would be such a good fight. Bit sad, though, that he dropped the Porter fight because of that. And he was talking about Crawford. WM has put here, brilliant fight. 2 undefeated fighters at the peak of their careers. Wizard Sleeve, what's going on, bro? He's put, Josh is far too good. Fury has been exposed. We'll talk about that. Now, what I will say about this fight here with Josh Taylor and Jose Ramirez, yeah, and Top Rank in general. Top Rank, for me, are not doing a good job. They're getting a bit lazy in their promoting. I remember going back all the way to Rigo and Lomachenko a couple of years ago. Remember how big that fight was to the hardcores? That wasn't promoted well at all. No. Crawford, he hasn't been promoted well. Josh Taylor and Ramirez, that fight hasn't been promoted well. Top Rank, for me, are getting a bit lazy in their promotions, man. I mean, it's only on the last week when you really see them start to push out the fights a bit more. And like, I don't know, I think on a platform like ESPN, I think it's disappointing, man. I think that this fight, even over here in the UK, I don't know if we've done it justice on our end. It's not being shown anywhere in the UK. I think it's on Fight TV, which is the online platform where you have to pay money to view. But, you know, why didn't Sky Sports take it up? Why didn't BT take it up? Like, what's happening, man? Why are we not pushing this fight more?
Absolutely. Again, I agree with everything you say. And it's interesting because I saw an online interview with Ramirez, and he was saying that he feels that Bob Arum and Top Rank could have done a better job in promoting him per se, never mind this fight. So, and then, you know, you look at it, Ramirez is a big ticket seller from where he's from in America. So, yeah, man, questions need to be asked. I mean, let's be honest, man. Bob is too old for this game, man. You know what I mean? And he doesn't seem to want to, you know, hand over the reins to anybody competent. I mean, I think his toddler Booth is his son-in-law, I understand.
Yeah.
But, you know what I mean? There doesn't seem to be no one taking up the reins. Bob Arum's in his 90s. He clearly doesn't have the energy. And, you know, you're right. They're just not doing a very good job with their fighters. We've seen the stuff with Terence Crawford. He's been quite vocal. And even going back way before that, I mean, Floyd left him. Oscar De La Hoya left him. Manny Pacquiao left him. They all had grievances over promotion. They all had grievances over money. Mikey Garcia's another top flight boxer that left him. So there's a pattern there, isn't there? You know what I mean? The pattern is that he just doesn't seem to be, they get to a certain level with Bob and they can't really get too much further because he just doesn't have it within him, the wherewithal to promote them properly. Yeah. And as you know, man, we're living in a different age now with social media and all the rest of it. It's one of those cases whereby if you don't keep up with the times, man, not only do you become stagnant, you also regress because everyone's moving on. And I would also say that whilst, you know, he's had his fair share of criticism this week from the likes of myself, but this is why Eddie Hearn is without doubt at the moment the best promoter in the world. So although we do give him some stick, I think we do also have to be fair and say, listen, man, Eddie, when you think of the likes of Bob Arum and Frank Warren and even Al Heyman, Don King's even still around, none of those guys come even remotely close to Eddie right now. And that's just the truth.
Yeah. Big up Sully here in the chat, man. I always like this guy's comments when he comes through. So big him up, man. He's put, Devin Haney versus Linares will have more fans in attendance, even though Ramirez versus Taylor is in the same city. Top Rank is a joke. Hearn or Al Heyman would have 25 times the attendance with that same fight.
Yeah.
I mean, you look at when Josh Taylor was on Sky Sports, yeah, when it was the World Boxing Super Series final. He was promoted much better over there. I'm not saying that that's necessarily where he needs to go. But in terms of this fight here, the promotion has been disappointing for me. And people in the chat are agreeing. Harvey saying it, you know, this fight hasn't got the credit it deserves. And WM has said here, I rarely agree with Laurie, but he is, but he is spot on here. Arum has become both lazy and complacent. See Exhibit A, Crawford. Terence Crawford needs to leave Top Rank, man. Don't you think, Laurie?
Absolutely. And WM, I'm not sure if it's even lazy or complacency. I just don't think Bob Arum, at his advanced age in life, has the energy and the minerals to do this type of stuff anymore. Don't forget, promotion is quite an energetic exercise, isn't it? You have to be out there in front of the cameras. You have to be on social media. You have to be a big media presence. You have to put yourself in the right places and say the right things. And, you know what I mean? It's quite an energetic occupation, and I just don't think Bob Arum has it within him to do it at this stage of his career, man, or his life. I just don't think he has.
Like you said, you've got Todd DeBerth, there's Bruce Trampler, he's part of Top Rank. Like, you know, who's gonna hold the reins, you know, when Bob eventually does go away from Top Rank, you know? Like, who's gonna be
I think what we're seeing, Daryl, is that age-old thing with autocracy. So Bob Arum is an autocrat. So he runs his company and he's the main man, he's the decision maker, and it sounds like he doesn't delegate to people. Maybe he doesn't trust people around him. Maybe because he's the type of character that he is, those types of people, because they're not very trustworthy themselves, they then have problems in entrusting other people. So because he doesn't have anybody that he feels he can trust or anyone that's competent enough to take over the reins, what you're seeing is him trying to do everything himself, and he's simply not up to it. He's just not. Neither in terms of his energy or in terms of his appreciation of social media and what it takes nowadays to make the big fights and to get your company out there and be at the forefront of things happening. And I'll tell you another thing. I mean, I remember when I was doing a lot of stuff with Coogan back in the day, a few years ago now, and I would go to various shows, right? I'm not going to name the shows, but I would go to various shows from various promoters. And one of the things that I noticed straight away, and I said this to Coogan at the time, and he agreed with me, and I hope he doesn't mind me repeating this now, is that you could always tell the difference between when we attended at Eddie Hearn's show compared to some of his rivals. And I you know what I mean? I'm putting that out there. The people can guess who I'm talking about. But there was a clear difference, man, in the way the shows were run, the sleekness of the operation, the types of people they employed. You know what I mean? And it was clear even back then. And like I said, I'm going back a few years now. And if anything, Eddie's got better and those guys have regressed. So, you know,
yeah,
that's how it is. Boxing promotion is a very difficult, arduous and energetic task. And if you're not up to it, man, it will show. You know what I mean? And I think you can see that with the way, like I said, some of these fighters, it's no coincidence that the top ranked guys are always complaining that they don't get enough promotion. And that's obvious, isn't it? To all intents and purposes. Terence Crawford's had problems. Manny Pacquiao, Floyd Mayweather, Mikey Garcia, Oscar De La Hoya. You know what I mean? Yeah. And then it goes on, you know?
Big up EJ20 in the chat here. And Mohammed, good to have you back in the podcast, Mohammed. EJ20, though, has said, it's not a pay-per-view, so Arum don't need to hype it. He's 90, for fuck's sake.
EJ20, I don't really know what point you're trying to make here, bro. I mean, all I can say to you is that good job you're not a fighter promoted by Bob Arum, because if you were, I think you'd have a very different opinion. It's not just about hype. We're talking about these money that could affect these fighters' lives. You know what I mean? You know what I mean? Interest in fights translates to ticket sales, to media interest, and all sorts of things like that. You know what I mean? And that translates to more money for the fighters, more presence, more profile for the fighters. So they are losing out. So you saying, oh, he's 90 for FFS, you know what I mean? Step aside and let somebody else do it who could do a more competent job. It's as simple as that. So I don't quite know where EJ20 is coming from with that one. To be with respect, I don't know what he's going on about. That statement don't make much sense to me.
Yeah, he's also said here MTK got the best deal for Taylor. Fair enough. MTK do know what they're doing. Wizard Sleever said here, if Josh was English, he'd be a megastar and Hearn would have broken the bank. Do you agree?
I think I'll definitely agree that if he was English, he probably would be bigger in the sport. We've seen over the years in not just in boxing, but in a multitude of different sports that if you're down south, especially London, then you do tend to get more attention. I think that just comes with the territory, really. But then, you know, if we look back, fighters like Ricky Hatton, he's from Manchester, he got mega attention. Tyson Fury, he's from up north. You know what I mean? So it can work the other way as well. But yeah, I do agree that if you're from London and you're English and stuff like that, the way the business works, it makes it easier, shall we say, for you to get that promotion. Yeah.
Let's talk about the fight itself, man. We're talking about the promotion or the lack of it, but let's talk about the actual fight and, you know, talk about the keys to victory for both men here. Now, Josh Taylor, for me, has his rise in his career has been outstanding. You know, he's had, 16, 17 fights. He's already holds 2 of the belts. He's won the World Boxing Super Series. There's not many people that have achieved what he has achieved in so little pro fights. So whether you like him or not, you have to respect the guy, man. He's very talented. And I really like watching Josh Taylor in the ring. This guy, he's got that killer instinct. You know, when we talk about Joseph Parker and we talk about how he has that lack of killer instinct and, you know, how he's too nice in the ring. Josh Taylor is the complete opposite. This guy has a ruthless streak in him. I like it. He's a mean bastard in that ring. And we were talking about it today. And you said to me that Josh Taylor reminds you of Terence Crawford in terms of how mean he is in the ring. And I think that that's a great comparison. Josh Taylor, for me, is just he just doesn't F about in that ring, man. And I just like to see it, you know. And against Ramirez, he knows how to fight. You know, he can throw it, he can swing. And, you know, he's got pop as well. So Josh Taylor can be caught. He's very good as well, though. He's very good on the inside and the outside. He does know how to box. But if Josh Taylor is drawn into, you know, Ramirez's type of fight where they're swinging away, he could get caught with something. And you never know. So while Josh Taylor is the favorite, I do see him as the favorite in terms of the bookies' odds. Ramirez has got this underdog mentality. Like in the Blood, Sweat and Tears preview show, he was talking like the underdog. He said, I know I'm the underdog. People are predicting Josh Taylor to win this. You know, he's ranked #1. He's got the ring belt. He's got the World Boxing Super Series trophy. But I know what I need to do. He's got, you know, Robert Garcia in his corner. And this has got all the ingredients to be a very good fight, man.
Yeah, actually, that talk of the trainer there is a point that I was going to make. Perhaps the one area advantage that Ramirez does have, other than the fact that the fight is being held in America, is the trainers, because he's got Robert Garcia there, who's a former world champion himself, a trainer who's very experienced, coached many world champions. And I would say he's comfortably a better trainer than Josh's trainer, Ben Davison. But in terms of the two fighters, yeah, man, I mean, listen, their styles are kind of a bit similar in a way, because although Josh Taylor does have what I would say the better boxing skills, he does tend to be drawn into fights. And I think if Ramirez steps to him, he's not going to want to box on the back foot. And if he does, he's not going to want to do that for too long. I think just Josh Taylor's whole mentality and that kind of alpha male syndrome he has about him will dictate that if he gets hit or if he feels that Ramirez is bringing the fight to him, he's going to want to meet that with aggression himself. Whether that's the best tactic for him to employ for this particular fight, I'm not so sure. I guess we'll have to see on the night. But I can definitely see Josh Taylor, you know what I mean, if he feels that Ramirez is invading his personal space like that, he's not going to want to flit around the ring. This is not going to be a Billy Joe Saunders moving around the ring and flicking out jabs from a distance. He's going to want to stand on his square, plant his feet, and try and hurt the guy. You know what I mean? So definitely that will come into play. But then I could see him using his boxing at times. And that's why I give him a slight edge, because I think he's a slightly more well-rounded boxer than Ramirez. Ramirez can box as well. But like I said, I just think that Josh Taylor, he's a kind of alpha male, machismo type of guy that once he takes a few shots, man, he's going to want to get back straight away. You know what I mean? So that could play into Ramirez's hands as well. Because Ramirez is an excellent fighter. He's got good boxing skills too, but he's got that kind of Mexican style, as they say. He likes to go to the body, go to the body with the left hook, come over the top with the head shot. So yeah, man, it's going to be this fight to me is almost like a can't miss. And like I said, although I'm having trouble predicting who's going to win the fight, I think the one thing that we can universally agree upon is that we all know it's going to be a very good fight. It's got kind of like fight of the year kind of sort of temporary stamp over it, hasn't it? You know what I mean? So
it definitely has. DS, my bro, in the chat, he's put, this could be a classic. I generally don't know who's going to win. The Mexicans have done us recently. We owe them one. Sule has said here, if Josh fights Ramirez the same way he fought Regis, Josh will be getting KO'd. Josh needs to stick to the outside, and if the crowd boos, who cares? Win the unanimous decision and become undisputed. I think, yeah, Sule's got a point. I mean, Josh can win this if he does, you know, if he sticks to his game and he boxes discipline and you know, he's not drawn into that sort of fight, he could win like a 116, 112 on the cards, don't you think?
He could do, but then again, there's always that sort of boxing politics syndrome that I talk about. That is, if Ramirez is seen to be the aggressor and he's on the front foot, and Josh is seen to be backing off a little bit too much, it could be that the judges may not reward him in that way. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So there's a lot of intangibles there to think about. You know what I mean? And that might dictate the tactics. We could see a cagey start, and it might be one of those fights that's a slow burner. They might, you know, take a few rounds to feel each other out, and then one of them might try and establish themselves, try and take center ring, and then we go. But we know that at some point, man, it's going to be bombs away. We know that. I think we've seen both of them by now to know that it's going to hot up, and when it does, man, it's going to get pretty fierce pretty quickly.
Yeah, Harvey's put here, I think Taylor gets the win on points. Sully has said, I want Josh to get stopped just because he's trained by Ben Davison. His popularity's kind of dipped over the last week or so, haven't you noticed? We'll talk about that.
The Ben Davison thing, right? I must admit, I was slightly surprised to see Josh Taylor go down that route. I mean,
I think MTK lined that up, didn't they?
Sorry?
MTK lined that up with Ben Davison.
Yeah. They obviously believe in Ben Davison more than I do. But yeah, I mean, he was being trained by Shane McGuigan before, wasn't he, as well?
Yeah.
I would have thought that would have been a much better fit for him. But obviously there's problems between MTK Global and the McGuigans, I would have thought. If you saw that documentary, I think it's fairly evident to see why there might be problems with that relationship. And of course, we know that Josh Taylor was close with Carl Frampton, wasn't he?
Yeah.
And so they'd left that McGuigan stable. So, and he didn't have too many complimentary words about the McGuigans after that. So, but yeah, so okay, so he needed a new trainer. I was slightly surprised he went to Ben Davison. I thought he might have gone for somebody a bit more experienced, but then maybe he thought he wanted somebody young. And I think I read before somewhere where he said that he wanted a trainer that would be almost like full time with him. A trainer that would dedicate themselves to training him rather than a trainer that he'd have to share with a host of other different fighters. So that may have influenced his decision to go with Ben Davison. And listen, man, he's spoken in the lead up to this fight about how well it's working. So maybe we shouldn't second guess it at all. He seems to be happy with it. I only hope that if he loses, he doesn't say, well, actually, I had problems with the camp and blah, because I've seen him say in the lead up to this fight that it's the best he's ever felt. He's raring to go. And I do believe it. It does look genuine and sincere when he said that. I've seen a similar with Ramirez. He's very happy with Robert Garcia. Said they've been working a lot of stuff. Said they've had a great camp. So that's another plus, that the two fighters are sounding so confident and raring to go in the lead up. So yeah, all good. Yeah,
for sure. Wizard Sleever said here, Josh dropped an unanimous decision Postal in his 13th fight. Ramirez got a gift in his 26th fight. You know what? When I see people make predictions on this fight, that mutual opponent, Victor Postal, is one that has kind of swayed a lot of opinion. I know we can't really always go on that, but it is pretty key. I mean, Ramirez did struggle against Victor Postal, whereas Josh Taylor really did beat him unanimously, you know? Is that a factor for you? Do you look into that too much or not?
It's a factor, but I don't think it's something you can read too much into. And the reason for that being, styles make fights. And we also don't know that what was going on with Postal, do we? We don't know that the version of Postal that Ramirez got might have been, for whatever reason, a slightly better one than the one that Josh Taylor had. So I think it's something you certainly can take into account when making your prediction or when trying to, you know, get some foresight. But I don't think you can lean exclusively on that type of thing. Because like I said, styles make fights. The conditions were different. And, you know what I mean? You just don't know at the end of the day. You know what I mean? I've seen some fighters look very average in the lead up to fights. And then they get to the main fight and they look excellent. They look explosive. And you think, why did I even doubt this man in the first place? So yeah, there's countless of examples of that over the years. So I wouldn't really read too much into that one, to be honest. I think if you look at recent form, though, Ramirez has looked good.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And so has Josh Taylor.
Yeah.
But yeah, I do lean slightly towards Josh Taylor. I'm just kind of given the way boxing politics works, and I'm a bit of a skeptic when it comes to stuff like this, I'm just, as well as it's a top-ranked show, I'm just thinking, will Josh Taylor get a decision in America? He might absolutely need to box Ramirez's head off, drop him a couple of times just to get a decision. You know what I mean? That's how I'm thinking.
Sulei's put here, I want Linares to stop Haney just because Haney did 5 seconds of pad work with Ben Davison. Ben Davison's not popular in this chat today. Conrad has put, why do people hate Ben? He's put, I always liked his work on British level at least. And EJ20 he's talking about Souley there. But yeah.
You know what it is with Ben Davison as well? I remember
go on.
When he first came out the gate, I remember the first time I observed him in a corner. I think he did a corner for Billy Joe Saunders, one of Billy Joe Saunders' fights. And it didn't go too well because he actually looked a bit confused and bereft of ideas in the corner, and Billy Joe Saunders was struggling. And I think some of the words that was picked up in the corner wasn't very flattering towards Ben Davison. Subsequent to that, I think he linked up with Tyson Fury, and he got some plaudits for his work with Tyson Fury. Because I remember when Tyson Fury was going through his personal problems, he attributed a lot of the success he had and coming through it to Ben Davison. So that kind of helped propel him to fame. But then even then, remember with the Tyson Fury Deontay Wilder first fight, Ben Davison was working the corner. I think they had Freddie Roach in the corner as well, didn't they?
Yeah, they
and
did.
If you remember, after that first Wilder Fury fight, Freddie Roach actually went public with his criticisms of the advice that Ben Davison was giving to Tyson Fury in the corner. So that didn't help him either. So I think the jury's still out on him, to be honest. I mean, and then the thing about Ben Davison that I think irritates some people, and I probably include myself in that as well, is that he seems to like doing the interviews, isn't he? Doing the rounds, giving his take on things. Now, listen, some people would say, well, why not? You know what I mean? You know, people are asking him about it and why shouldn't he? But it's almost like you're looking at him and you think, bro, since when did you become this sage on boxing? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
He looks like one of those guys who's a trainer, but he's trying to live his life vicariously through the fighters type of thing. You know what I mean? So, I don't know, man. I guess he's going to have to prove himself in the long run. Yeah. Obviously, teaming up with people like Josh Taylor might help him in that regard.
This is a reason why a few people don't like Ben Davison as well, after the whole Mark Tibbs situation.
Yeah, that's not helped. That's not helped. He's not come out of that at all well. And that explanation that he's offering up for Billy Joe Saunders quitting, realistically, I don't think no one's buying that, are they? I'm surely not. So it doesn't make him look great in the eyes of public opinion, man. You know what I mean? A lot. Put it this way, everyone I've spoken to on that whole Billy Joe Saunders thing and Ben Davison getting involved and saying, yeah, I spoke to him and he, you know what I mean, I advised him not to quit. No one believes that. Maybe Michelle Joy Phelps believes it, but no one believes that. You know what I mean? So, yeah. So, yeah, that's not going to help him either in the court of public opinion, anyway.
Let's get our final prediction on this Taylor Ramirez fight. I know who you've picked to win, but just give us let's have this final prediction for this fight before we move on. First of all, I want to shout out to IB. He's put, big up, guys. How can I drop a super chat to support? Not giving me the option. By the way, AJ absolutely humbled Fury on Twitter. The bare knuckle comeback with the Tom Saunders clip was a thing of beauty. Hey, listen, that was hilarious, bro. As for the super chat, I'm not sure. I'll sort that out for the next one if I can. It's all good though, man. I appreciate your comment and thank you, man. You guys being here, dropping comments is enough support for me for now anyway. So shout out to everybody in the chat. Don't forget to like the video as well if you can. And that'll be enough for me right now, man, for sure. But big up IB and big up all of you guys, man. JD has put, Davidson is a pretty good PE teacher, to be honest. Wizard Sleever said here, never trust a guy who has ever worn a hairband. And Sully said here, in Ben Davidson's eyes, Billy Joe Saunders versus Canelo was no different versus Vitali against Chris Bird. Yeah, the PE teacher shout is people like that one. And DS has put here, I almost fell off my chair with that last AJ tweet. So let's get your prediction, Laurie, and then let's talk about AJ and Fury.
Yeah, like I said, really looking forward to this fight. The one thing I can predict with a degree of certainty is that it's going to be an excellent, entertaining fight. I think it's going to go 12 rounds. I'm leaning towards Josh Taylor because I do feel he has a superior range of boxing skills. He also has a very good dig. He's got the heart. I'm sure Ramirez has got the heart as well. He's also got a decent dig. But the way they match up, I'm leaning towards Josh Taylor. However, it wouldn't surprise me to see Ramirez get a controversial 12-round split points decision, or it might even be a draw. I think it could be one of those fights as well that come the end of the fight, there's going to be people over in America saying that Ramirez won, and then people over this side of the pond saying that Taylor won. But I'll go on Taylor with a split decision.
I got Taylor by decision. I just think that overall, in terms of he's just got that little bit more ability than Ramirez. I'm not discrediting Ramirez at all, but I just have that much of a high opinion of Josh Taylor. He's got a decent set of whiskers on him. He can dig. He can box on the inside and the outside. I think he knows what's at stake here. And going by the Blood, Sweat and Tears documentary, they're both really up for this. But I just feel like it's Josh Taylor's time, man. I've picked against him before, and he's proven me wrong. And I'm not prepared to pick against him again. So, yeah, I think that he'll win this one. And he's going to need every bit of his ability on Saturday night. But I think he might just edge it. There's not much between them, but I'll slightly edge Josh Taylor for me.
Yeah. I think the other thing I was going to say that I neglected to mention before is that I think Josh Taylor has got a slightly superior athleticism as well that I think might help him too. He looks like he's got the more fast twitch fibers. You know what I mean? He looks a bit quicker in both his hands and his feet. And I think that might help him too. But I do believe it's going to be close, man. Listen, if either one of these guys go out there and really do a number on either one, then I'll be surprised, to be honest, because I think that they match up so well. But it's just that I think that Josh Taylor, for me, in those crucial areas, skill sets, athleticism and stuff like that, punching power, I think that Taylor prevails.
It's going to be a fantastic fight, man. Really looking forward to it on Saturday night. We'll do our reaction to that next week. And really looking forward to that fight, man. Let's talk about, though, the Twitter spat between Anthony Joshua and Tyson Fury last night. Listen, man, that was brilliant.
That was riveting. That was riveting.
Some people on Twitter, I've noticed, are trying to do the, you know what I mean? Oh, I'm a bigger person than that. Oh, if you like that, people arguing. Oh, shut up. Just it was good.
Anyone that says that, they don't have no real appreciation for.
Trying to be boring, just trying to play down everything. Like, just let people enjoy things. Yeah, like that was pretty funny, man.
Trash talking is always been part of boxing for as long as I can remember. You know what I mean? And I have to say, man, that AJ's trash talk game, he doesn't get it out too often, but when he does, like I have to say, man, that was round one to him yesterday, man. You know what I mean?
We saw Femi last night, not AJ.
Yeah, that's what a few people are saying. You know what I mean? But this, you know what it is, though. I genuinely, and I had this conversation with some colleagues of mine at work today, and I said to them, I goes, "There's just something about this fight, man, that AJ just seems to be hyper motivated for, and deep down, I think he really believes that he's going to do a number on Fury. And I think you can see that from the way his approach is to this fight. I mean, so for example, you saw AJ in the preliminaries to the fight that he never had with Jarrell Miller. He allowed Jarrell Miller to push him halfway across the stage, and he didn't really seem that animated. You know what I mean? We've seen in previous fights with Dylan where Dylan's, said certain things to him, and he's responded in a way you think, well, okay, he's responded, but not in that same kind of fashion. But this one, he seems to be very keyed up for, man. And there may be something behind that, man. You know what I mean? There might be some real animus there. You know what I mean? And I think that this one's got AJ to that point where, you know what I mean, he wants to make it known, man, that he's not going to take no BS from Fury.
Do you know what I've noticed? Big up everybody in the chat with their opinions as well. I want to know what you guys think about this year, but even going by some of the comments today about this whole the spat between these two, are you sensing a shift in terms of popularity? I mean, Joshua was always the more popular fighter commercially, but I always got the sense amongst the hardcores, you probably could side with Fury more. But Look at some of these comments. WM has put here, AJ properly put Fury in his place, exposed him for the fraud that he is. He massively missiled the public. Harvey has said here, never been happier when I saw Fury got exposed and humbled last night. And like Sully has put here, Fury couldn't get up from those Twitter knockdowns, even with that Jack Reese slow count. So,
I like that one. I like that one.
A lot of people are going off at Fury, and you know what? He kind of get it. I can't defend him. I can't defend Fury for.
You know what, Carol? I said to you, didn't I, a couple of weeks ago on this show? I said to you that a lot of people are becoming very tired of Tyson Fury and his dad and all that, and their boorish antics and their dosser talk, and you know what I mean. I think people are just becoming. Maybe at first it was a bit of a novelty act, bit of pantomime. It was a bit different. But now I think a lot of people, man, are just becoming sick and tired of it. And like I said, this guy is a walking bag of contradictions. He says one thing one day, another thing the next. I mean, and let's be honest, man, of this whole thing, apart from Eddie, he's come out of this the worst. It's interesting that the two people that seem to be copying the blame for this thing are Eddie Hearn and Tyson Fury. And that announcement that he made, a lot of people were suggesting that he would have known that the fight was either not going to happen or in serious jeopardy when he made that Twitter announcement. And a lot of people are going in on him for it. And I don't blame them. I don't blame them, man. You know what I mean? Because if either one of those is the case, being that either he knew that the fight weren't going to happen or he knew it was in serious jeopardy, which, let's face it, he must have known that that fight was in jeopardy. For him to come out and make that announcement, you have to say that is misleading the public. It absolutely is. And I think that might have been the final straw with a lot of people. But regardless of what happened a couple of days ago, I know a lot of people, you know what I mean, I'm on various forums and WhatsApp groups, and I talk to a lot of people about boxing. And I've sort of been sensing this shift for a while with AJ and Fury. I mean, like you said, commercially, AJ's always been the more popular. He looks better, he's more marketable, he's more sellable. He doesn't spout off and make stupid, asinine statements like Fury does. So that makes him a lot more marketable. So if you go to Westfield, for example, you see billboards with AJ on. You've never seen anything like that with Fury. But what you were seeing before was a lot of the hardcores, a lot of the boxing fans, they were kind of riding with Fury and saying, yeah, he's the best heavyweight out there. And listen, a lot of people are still saying that Fury's favorite, but I'm sensing in talking to people, they're saying, listen, I just want AJ to shut this guy up, man. He's become a clown. I can't take it no more. He's too inconsistent. He chats a lot of nonsense. Nothing that ever comes out of this guy's mouth is anything that, you know what I mean, that is reliable. And we've had enough of him. And I felt like that for a while with Fury. I respect him as a boxer. You have to. You know what I mean? He's unbeaten. You know what I mean? He's done everything he set out to do. He looked great in that fight against Wilder. He said he was going to go out there and dominate, and he did that. So you can't knock him for that. But it's a lot of the baggage that goes with Fury. You know what I mean? And then, like I said, recently he's been mouthing off and nothing's happening. And you see some of the stuff he goes on with, and you just think, nah, man, that's not true. It's a bit crass, isn't it? And then his dad enters the equation with his boorishness and trying to carry on like he's this big bully and the guy's in his 50s. It's just a joke, man. It's become a circus. You've got Tommy Fury as well. No one really takes him seriously. He's mouthing off. He's chasing fights with YouTubers. They just come across as an unsavory bunch to me, man. I'm sorry. That's how I read it. You know what I mean?
Yeah. People in the chat are agreeing.
The IFL lot probably won't like that, but that's how I feel about it, man. I respect him as a fighter, but outside the ring, I don't really respect how he carries himself. Like I said, some people will like that. For me, I can't take that seriously, bro. I can't.
I've just like I said, I've just sensed a shift on the timeline yesterday. I saw a tweet, and this person's obviously he's from the UK. And he put something out there. Big up PC Jacob. He's probably watching. He put, Wilder, we need you to knock Fury out on behalf of the UK. Now, I know not everybody feels that way, of course. But the fact that people are starting to come out with this now is like, you go back to February 2020 when Fury beat Wilder. His popularity was probably at an all-time high, even more than the Klitschko fight, you know?
Yeah, he was.
And I think now it's just like, I don't know. Joe.
The same way a lot of people had got a little bit sick of Wilder and some of the antics he was going on with. So people wanted to see him get his mouth closed. So
True.
Fury doing that probably satisfied a lot of people's thirst to see that. But similarly, we're seeing that type of thing, that type of energy now towards Fury, where people are saying, look, I've had enough of this guy. At least with AJ, he carries himself with a degree of class. I mean, some people have said previously they find AJ a bit robotic, a bit kind of, you know, what's the word, a bit scripted at times, and maybe he does. But I think at the heart of it, you've got a guy that's good at heart. I mean, listen, I've met him a few times. He's a lovely guy, man. Trust me, he really is. But some people say he's a bit scripted. He's a bit too manufactured. And I can see where some people might say that, but I do think he's genuine. Far more genuine than Tyson Fury, who just comes out with all these crazy stuff, and you just think, oh, come on, man, stop it. You know what I mean? At first, mildly entertaining, but when it drags on and on and on, you just think it's cringeworthy, isn't it? Some of the stuff that comes out of it is actually cringeworthy.
It's WWE shit,
man, with his shirt off, and it's just it's the whole routine is tired for me. And then I have to say this, right? But what happened last week as well, after during in the immediate aftermath of Billy Joe getting stopped by Canelo, that incident there, I mean, you know, some people might overlook it and say, you know what I mean, what did you expect him to do and this and that? But I mean, at the end of the day, when you go around calling yourself the Gypsy King and I'm the baddest man on the planet and all that type of stuff, and people see Tom Saunders, who's, if not a relative, they're supposed to be very close, an elderly man, getting absolutely shoved around and brutalized by security. And then you see the so-called baddest man on the planet standing there in some pink shirt.
That video is going to go back to haunt
barriers. Yeah, leaning up against the barriers, watching while his close friend, you know what I mean, his dad is getting thrown around like a rag doll and he's doing absolutely nothing. The two, it looks kind of incongruous. And listen, I'm not saying he should have jumped over there and started wading in, but people are going to talk about that, man. And let's face it, that little comeback there by AJ, man, that closed the show when he said that, you know what I mean? That had me in stitches when I saw that, man. As I'm sure you and millions of other people across the world. That's like mean, that is, you know what I mean? So, yeah,
Dillian White came out with it last week or so, called him out on it, AJ's doing it. So that video is going to haunt Fury, man, because when Fury was saying all this, let's have a knuckle fight, 20 million each, no one's taking it that seriously. You know that's not happening. Exactly. So, like, it's just...
Why say it?
Shit, man.
Why say it? Yeah. Tommy Fury's another one. He said, oh, when I get to America, I'm pulling up at Jake Paul's gym. I'm going to do this. Have you seen him do it?
No.
Exactly. So he's just
pictures, man.
All smoke and mirrors. And the thing is, we're not stupid. We know that's not going to happen. So when you go around saying stuff like that, you just make yourself look silly. You know what I mean?
EJ20 has put here, I don't think Fury is too bothered about us British fans. He's not even licensed to fight here. He don't care about us.
And that's a good point. And that's a contradiction as well, because I've seen him say that several times. He's not bothered about the UK. You know what I mean? He wants to get American citizenship. You know what I mean? I've given up with my license. I don't care if I ever fight in Britain again. Then the next minute, when he's over here, he's all Brit. Yeah, see, I mean, it's just a load of old nonsense. And like I said, there comes a point when you just get sick and tired of it because there's no consistency. There's no real message there. It's all a load of rubbish. You know what I mean? And after a while, you just think he's the type of person that unless he's fighting regularly, it's easy to go off him because unless he's in the ring, there's nothing to like about Tyson Fury. That's the problem he has. You know what I mean? So.
Ian Hamilton has put here, anyone who knows me knows what I think of Fury. It's slightly poetic justice to see loads of people turn on him. This is why you don't announce things knowing that a court case is going on. The man is a fraud. WM has put here, agreed. In spite of Wilder's big bag of crazy, I hope he absolutely sleeps Fury. Sully has put here, Frank Warren in the last TalkSport interview couldn't give a straight answer to why Fury's team can't afford $15 or $20 million fight step aside if they are set to make career highs for the AJ fight. Exactly. If you're set to make career high for the AJ fight, hundreds of millions they're talking about, the Saudi Arabian money, why can't you afford the 15 or 20 million to give Wilder to step aside? Bob was straight out saying, no, I'm not paying that.
One reason for that, Daryl, because they know that Deontay Wilder is not going to take step aside money. I think they tried to go down that road with him before, and he's rebuffed it. They know it. So this talk of step aside money is just a red herring to me. It's just to try and possibly make Wilder look bad, that he's holding things up, and he's doing it for money. I don't think he is. And I invite anybody to go online and just type in Wilder, and you see the statements that's coming out from him about this fight. You see the energy that he's emitting. You see the statements. You see what he's looking like in training. He wants that fight. Now, some people might say he's been slightly delusional because he got battered in that second fight. He didn't even win the first fight. What's the point? But at the end of the day, he does have a rematch clause. I don't agree with rematch clauses, but Wilder has one. He went to arbitration. They found in his favor. Let's be honest, they pretty much were always going to find in his favor, weren't they? Which is why I was slightly critical of Eddie, because Eddie Hearn should have realized if Deontay Wilder has a contract with a rematch clause in it, then that should have been sorted out way before they even started talking about. You see what I'm saying, Daryl?
Yeah.
That should be one of the first things that they sought to take care of. Yeah. Wilder. And I mean, they should have sought him out and said, "Listen, what's happening with this rematch clause? Are you intending to honor it? Is there any possible way we can get around this? Will you accept step aside money? Will you accept the assurance of you fight the winner of Fury and AJ?" All of those things should have been established very early on before they went into these deep negotiations. So they're looking for sites all over the world. They end up in Saudi Arabia. They're talking about money, TV rights and all that. But then you've got the basic principle of the rematch clause that was not sorted out. And that's why I was critical of Eddie. Now, Eddie's saying stuff like, yeah, but Bob told me everything was sorted. Come on, man. When you're talking about a fight of this magnitude with hundreds of millions of dollars at stake, and you're doing business at the top level like that, you're dealing with lawyers and people who are asked to pore over contracts. You know what I mean? Don't you think that this sort of thing should have been sorted out at the outset? You don't wait until you're ready to announce a fight and then you say to Bob, well, Bob, what's happening with the old rematch clause, the arbitration case? How's that going? And then Bob's going, oh, well, actually, yeah, we should be all right. No, that doesn't sound correct to me at all, man. You know what I mean? So I think Eddie dropped the ball on that one, and that's why he's getting criticised.
What I will say, it looks like, it looks like that the fight is going to collapse if it hasn't already. If anyone still believes that it's going to happen, it's looking very unlikely now. Bob Arum has reserved the Las Vegas Raiders Stadium in July, at the end of July, for Fury Wilder 3. Also, the WBO have released a statement, I think it was today or yesterday, and they basically said that AJ has 48 hours to let them know what's going on. Otherwise, they're going to order AJ versus Usyk. We know that Eddie Hearn has been in contact with Usyk's promoters. So it's looking like, for now anyway, the summer fight between AJ and Fury is not going to happen. And that's why I believe AJ went to Twitter, because it probably went to him that, yeah, this fight ain't happening. Let me go off at Fury now in frustration. So, I think that's the case.
His frustration is real. I think his frustration is real. I think he feels that Arum and Fury and all that lot have not been honest, and he's expressed that. And listen, I don't blame him. You know what I mean? A lot of people are frustrated that this fight's not happening, including myself and you, and many millions of people across the world who genuinely wanted to see this fight. But now it would appear that it was never really sorted, was it? Let's be honest, man. It couldn't have been. Whilst this arbitration issue was hanging over this fight, I don't know how you could go ahead and announce it. You know what I mean? It just doesn't make any sense to me at all. And this is why I keep saying that Eddie Hearn has to accept his fair share of blame as well, because he should have sought those assurances in writing. You know what I mean? It shouldn't be not only that. On the phone last night and he said everything was all right. Nah, come on, man.
Not only that, but I'd say all those interviews as well that he was getting. I mean, to be fair to Eddie, he was asked a question. Like, there was a mic shoved in his face. He kept being asked about it. But what I'd say, instead of like, maybe not got so excited like we did, you know, because the kind of feedback we were getting from those interviews was that this fight is basically done. Do you know what I mean? And when it wasn't, maybe if he was more like circumspect, I'm not saying be as negative as Bob Arum and Frank Warren were, but just say, look, we're looking to get it done. You know, we've got this arbitration that we need to worry about. Until that's over, then we can announce it. Why can't they just be straight up and tell us that's what's going on?
I think Eddie's ego got the better of him. He wanted to jump out there and be seen as this biggest, best promoter in the world. I got the fight done. I did it pretty much by myself. And that's why he came up short as well. You know what I mean? So,
yeah.
Comedy of errors, I think, is the term. You know what I mean? And that's what it feels like to me. And there's a lot of people out there that need to look at themselves in the mirror this morning and think, listen, did I really conduct myself in the best possible light? I think the only person who emerges out of this whole debacle with any credit at all is AJ. And with regards to what you said earlier about the WBO and Usyk and that, listen, man, I don't have a problem with that at all. No. Usyk, Dillian White, a number of other fighters have kind of put their careers on hold, supposedly while this fight was supposed to sort out the unification.
Yep.
And it's not happened. So these guys are quite rightly hitting up their managers and promoters and saying, listen, man, what's going on? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I need to get my career back on track. As an athlete at the top level, you have a certain amount of years in your prime and you want to achieve as much as you can in that time. You know what I mean? Why should you wait endlessly while Fury and Bob Arum and Eddie Hearn and Frank Warren and all that lot, you know what I mean, sort out what's happening with contracts? You know what I mean? And this is, again, I'm going to repeat it. This is why I'm not a big fan of rematch clauses in contracts.
Yeah. Big up Francisco Alatorre. I hope I pronounced your name right. If I haven't, I apologize. But he said here, I just discovered you guys and I find your analysis to be much deeper than the other boxing channels. I'm from the US and of Mexican descent. I'm rooting for Ramirez, but I rarely disagree with Laurie. Hey, big up Francisco in the chat, man. And thank you.
I wonder if Francisco, him being of Mexican descent, I wonder if he will be in agreement with some of the comments I made about Canelo. So Francisco, if you're watching, I hope you'll go back and look at some previous shows we've done where I've talked about Canelo. I've acknowledged that he's a great fighter, but I've also said I'm very critical of some of the baggage that goes on around him. So have a look at those and let me know what you think.
Big up Francisco, man. Thank you for the comment, man. EJ20 has put here, so we should be getting AJ versus Usyk next. Here's a question for you, Laurie, and a question for the chat. What's the more dangerous fight? Who's in more, when you talk about AJ and Fury, who's at more of a threat of losing? Will you say AJ with Usyk in front of him, or would you say Fury with Wilder in front of him?
That's a good question. I would say I would probably back both of them to come through. But I don't think either of those fights are easy for either Fury. I mean, I may be one of a few, but I think that Wilder will represent a very serious threat to him if they fight in July. And the reason for that is, I explained it to you the other day, Darryl, but just briefly for the people who didn't see that show we did the other day, is that I think with Wilder, you're dealing with a wounded animal. He was embarrassed at the last fight. He genuinely, I think, believes that there were some things in that fight that were amiss. He says there was cheating going on. But whatever it is, he feels aggrieved, and I think he looks motivated. He's got a new trainer. And from the clips I've seen on, I mean, I know it's only the mitts and all the rest of that, then he's sparring. But he does look a bit, well, not a bit, he looks invigorated, man. And he looks better on the mitts than I've ever seen him look. You know what I mean? He looks sharp. He's punching with snap. He's punching with power. He looks motivated. He's uploaded a few other clips of some of his training regimen.
You see,
and the man looks, yeah, I have, yeah. And he looks motivated, man. And when somebody is motivated in that way, particularly when they're motivated by vengeance, that can make them a very dangerous animal. I mean, it can work against you as well, insofar as it can maybe make you too overzealous with your training and maybe, you know what I mean, work more harder than you need to. But I see a certain energy from Wilder, man, that I like. In the lead up to this. And I think that if that fight is made, given the fact that Wilder is still, in my opinion, the biggest puncher in the heavyweight division, as long as he's in the fight, he's going to be dangerous, because I don't expect him to be outboxing Fury. I'm not saying that, because I think Fury's clearly the better boxer of the two. But then Wilder carries by far the more power of the two. And I think that if he lands, it could be curtains for Fury. You know what I mean?
So who are you saying then? What's the more who's in more danger?
Like I said, I would make Fury favourite, but I wouldn't write Wilder off. And similarly, in the AJ fight, I would make AJ favourite against Usyk. But although Usyk has not looked great in his time as heavyweight so far, you cannot deny this man's skills and this man's heart. He's unbeaten. He's never lost as a pro. And he's a tremendous boxer, man. And if he gets it right on the night, he could give AJ a lot of problems. We've seen AJ have problems with boxers before. And Usyk is a southpaw, tremendous boxer, very tough, decent power, very experienced. You know what I mean? He's got all the elements there to give AJ a real hard fight. So, yeah, in short, I expect them both to come through. That's Fury and AJ. But there could be scares. There could even be an upset.
Big up Sula here. He's put here, do you guys remember De La Hoya versus Mayweather? Of course. He's put, Oscar had a rematch clause that Floyd didn't honor. Not only that, but Floyd took a fight with Ricky Hatton while still disputing with De La Hoya's team. Do you remember that, Laurie?
I don't remember too much about that. I don't remember too much about that. I don't know why that wasn't resolved in I don't know if did De La Hoya go to court for it, like what Wilder has done.
Didn't Floyd retire? Then he fought Marquez. No, was that they fought Hatton before that, didn't he?
Yeah.
I can't remember.
What tends to happen with these rematch clauses is that if somebody states, the loser states that they want to exercise the rematch clause, what will tend to happen is that a lot of times they can be given step aside money, and depending on the terms of the agreement, a lot of times they will take the money. So they might say, so for example, here's a couple of million or a few 100,000, whatever it is, and they will promise that you'll get the crack at the winner. And then sometimes it might be in that person's best interest to take that deal, because as you said, Daryl, the other day, it means you get 2 paydays. And it also means that you get some time out the ring to go and prepare on how to beat the guy you lost to, you know what I mean? Or to have a little rest while you're still getting paid. So sometimes it can suit the person. But clearly Wilder is not in the mood for any step aside money on this particular occasion. He wants to fight. He feels aggrieved. He feels that he got cheated against Tyson Fury. Despite what we say, that's what he feels. Him and his team feel that way. And they want revenge. And revenge is a very powerful and motivating force.
Conrad has said here, do you think it's an issue for Fury that he lost so much weight in preparation for AJ? He looks quite slim, he says. I don't think so.
Yeah, he does look slim, but then he's kind of got a weird shape anyway, Tyson Fury, isn't it? Because although he looks quite slim, he still looks quite fleshy around the belly and other areas. So, listen, man, his shape, it seems to work for his boxing style, doesn't it?
Yeah, I'd say so.
He does have a lot of natural athleticism for a big man of 6'9". I'll give him that. So
he does move very well for a big man.
Yeah, he does. So I don't think it'll be an issue for him, to be honest.
Wizard Sleever said here, big Wilder power versus who? Bum power only. Deontay Wilder.
Listen, man, I don't care if you're fighting bums, man. If you're knocking, I mean, the guy's got a KO percentage of over 90+%. So. And listen, has he not decked Fury twice? In that first fight, he decked him twice. The second time, a lot of people saying it was a KO that he wasn't given credit for, you know what I mean? So we know he's got the power, bro. You know what I mean? We know he's got the power. So, yeah, I don't think that's beyond dispute.
And the thing is, you might not be, just to answer that answer that question from Wizard Sleeve, you might not be the best boxer in the division, but you could have a great chin still. Look at Wack, for example. Like, some guys just have very, very good chins, you know? They might not have to, they could be a limited fighter, but have a very good. Wilder, he's got that power where he's putting people to sleep, you know? And, you know, he knocked out Luis Ortiz. Some people might not think Ortiz is as good as other people make him out to be, but for me...
Yeah, but who else has done that to Ortiz? No one else is doing that to him, are they? You know what I
He's
mean?
got a tremendous right hand. He's got a tremendous right hand.
So listen, man, I think anyone doubting Deontay Wilder's power, I don't know what they've been watching, because whatever you want to say about his boxing skills and all the rest of it, fair enough. But the one thing you can't say is that the guy doesn't carry power. To me, he's the hardest puncher in the heavyweight division, clearly. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Doesn't mean to say he's going to beat everybody in the heavyweight division, but he is the hardest puncher.
Big up Mr. KWX Ben in the chat. He's put, yes, Humphrey Bogart was in the film The Harder They Fall. Watch it. Boxing hasn't changed since. I haven't watched that, actually. I don't know. Have you watched that?
Yeah, I've watched that film, man. And yeah, I hear where he's coming from with that, man. I think he's kind of talking about the whole behind the scenes, the politics, as we call it, in boxing.
Yeah.
What goes on behind the scenes, the corruption, some of the shady characters, the skullduggery, you know what I mean? That type of thing. Yeah. So
I'll check it out. Sully has a question here. He says, AJ versus Ruiz 3 or AJ versus Usyk? Which fight is bigger globally?
I would say probably AJ versus Usyk at this stage, because Ruiz, since he lost to AJ, he didn't perform well in that fight. There was this much hyped comeback. You know, he's working with Eddie Reynoso. We're going to see a new Andy Ruiz. He's going to look sensational. I'm going to knock out. And let's face it, the opponent, Chris Arreola, was selected to make him look good. A guy that was in his 40s, guy that doesn't move very well, guy that was lost his last couple of fights, leading into the Ruiz fight. Let's face it, man, Ruiz struggled, especially early on.
Yeah.
So I'm not saying Ruiz is finished or anything like that, but as of now, the AJ Usyk fight to me is a much bigger fight.
Yeah, Ruiz, he definitely didn't win it as wide as those scorecards had it in that fight with Arreola for sure. My brother Big Lou in the chat, he's put, you can't write off Deontay Wilder. I agree. Mr. KWX Ben has put here, Sean Porter beat Usyk. He did in the amateurs. Conrad Boxing has said he'll check it out. And
he also beat Danny Jacobs in the amateurs as well.
Sean Porter, yeah.
Yeah.
Big Lou has said here, he has put too many guys to sleep. You can't overlook him. He's talking about Deontay Wilder. Listen, Laurie, we're an hour into the show. I want to talk about last weekend's fights before we go. And we'll start off with Joshua Bowatsy and, against Dos Santos. And give me your thoughts on Bowatsy's performance. His first fight under Virgil Hunter ended it with a spectacular knockout in the 4th round. I have to say, I kind of felt a bit for Dos Santos at the end there, man. He was really upset, and it just goes to show, like, the hard work he put in. Nobody really knew much about Dos Santos. He had a very good story, though. And I would say, you kind of felt for him because the amount of this hard work that these boxers put in. I mean, we can criticize boxers all we want, but one thing that we can say about all of them is that they put the work in. I mean, I know I've trained as an amateur before. You've reached a higher level as an amateur than I have. So, like, we both know what it's like. But he was very upset at the end of it. So, I'm glad that he's okay. But a brutal ending for Joshua Bowatsy there. Did you see much improvement under Virgil Hunter? It will take a bit of time, wouldn't it?
Yeah, I mean, it was his first, like you said earlier, it was his first fight working with Virgil Hunter. And it showed at times because you could see he was trying to work on some things. I think they've been working on head movement and using the jab more as a way of getting in to deliver his harder punches. But overall, I was impressed. And listen, man, that was a devastating knockout. And even the finish, he spoke of quite eloquently after Bowatsy. He said that was something that had been working on. And in fact, you could hear in the corner in the round preceding, Virgil Hunter was saying, listen, shake to go to the body, throw a jab to the body and come over the top. And he did that. And you saw the effects, devastating. Highlight reel knockout. And yes, I agree with you. It's kind of sad to see his opponent in tears like that. I mean, it was a reminder of how brutal a sport this is. And I hope he's all right. I mean, I read somewhere where some people were suggesting that him having that kind of mental discombobulation in the ring could have been a concussion, the effect of a concussion there, because he was like that in the dressing room as well after. So he's probably going to go for a bit of a mini depression, because obviously that until he gets back in the ring again, that's always going to be on his mind. So I hope he can come back and have a career after this. But it was a devastating knockout. And I also have to say that Bowatsy showed a lot of class, man, and it was sincere as well.
You can tell.
Yeah, standing over him in the ring like that, offering some consoling words, then going to his dressing room, doing the same thing. Very impressive by Bowatsy. And as I said to you last week, even before this fight had taken place, Bowatsy's one of those guys, man. He's a very nice, humble, genuine, sincere man outside the ring, but he's a bit of a killer inside it. You know what I mean? And yeah, man, overall, very impressed. Very impressed. Yeah. And he moves on to bigger and better things. I mean, it has to be said, man, the light heavyweight division, especially in this country, man, is lit.
That's my next question.
Lit, man. Lit. It's probably our best, most competitive division right now, isn't it? Okay, the heavyweights is pretty competitive as well. You've got Fury, you've got AJ, you've got
Dylan,
you've got Daniel Dubois on the comeback, you've got Joe Joyce, so that's very. But the light heavyweights isn't a million miles away, man. I mean, look, you've got Bowatsy, you've got Callum Johnson, you've got Anthony Yard, you've got Lyndon Arthur, you've got my boy Dan Aziz. Shout out to Dan Aziz, big friend of mine, excellent fighter. He's got the English title. You've got Craig Richards.
So here's my question. Who, and for you guys in the chat too, light heavyweight, who's number one? Who's number one at light heavyweight right now, in your opinion?
Very good question, man.
Callum Smith's joining light heavyweight as well. I know we can't really include him now, but like he will be joining the fray soon. But out of those crop that you mentioned to me, who's number one?
I don't know, man. That is a real good question.
We got one here from Mr. KWX Ben. He's put his rankings here. So he hasn't got, you ain't got Bowatsy in there at all.
Yeah, I'm surprised he's not got Bowatsy in the shake up there, man. I definitely have to have Bowatsy in the top three. Listen, man, I think you could make a case for any one of those first three. I don't know, man. It's real hard. You have to give me some more time on that one, man.
It's tough, isn't it?
But like I said, it's deep. And don't write out my boy Dan Aziz. He's coming up, man. He's unbeaten. He's won the English title. He gets better with every fight. You know what I mean? He's not quite at the top echelons yet, but another year or so, he'd probably be up there, man. So I think I might lean slightly towards Bowatsy and Callum Johnson second, maybe Lyndon Arthur third, or maybe even, I don't know, it's hard, man. Maybe we don't give Lyndon Arthur enough credit, you know? He's got the best jab in the division.
Does Callum Johnson get enough credit for you? I know.
Callum Johnson's probably the biggest puncher. Yeah, but then Craig Richards, man, he fought excellently the other day against Bivol. He won some rounds. He didn't win the fight, but he impressed me with the way he dealt with the occasion and the way he won rounds. And he, prior to that, he was coming off a very good win as well. You know what I mean? So, wow.
Very tough, yeah. It's tough, man. It's like
that light heavyweight division in this country at the moment, man, is probably the most competitive one. You can make an argument for the heavyweights as well, but yeah, certainly the light heavyweights is, if not the most competitive, probably second.
It's probably a sensible comment here, which I agree with from DS. He's put here, I can't pick who's the best now, but I believe Bowatsy has the highest ceiling.
Yeah, I couldn't argue with that either. Man.
Sule's put here, whoever stitched up Bowatsy's ring walk robe deserves a shout out. That walkout fit was fresh. He always has fresh fits for his you know, his body is his boxing gear. I think he's sponsored by Nike, and he said, yeah, I think that's what it is. But yeah, always looks good.
I like the robe and the shorts with the African attire down there. Yeah, that looked really cool, man. Yeah.
Look good.
Bowatsy is definitely one to watch because he's got a bit of everything, isn't he? He can box, he can punch, and he's got that devil inside the ring, man. I mean, you saw in that fight, I think it was in the second round or third round when Dos Santos pushed him over.
Croydon came out of him there.
Bowatsy got up, he had a word with him. You could see he wasn't happy, man. He was basically saying, look, man, if that's how you want it, then let's go, you know what I mean? And then you saw the way he ended it. So yeah, man, I'm impressed with him. Like I said, man, there's some real talent. Callum Johnson, you can't write him off with the power that he's got. He's probably not as good as boxer as some of the other guys, but he's got power, man. You know what I mean? And he's got strength as well. Very strong at the weight. I mean, you're talking about a guy that decked Beterbiev. And some people are saying Beterbiev should be up there in the pound for pound listings, and he looked indestructible. Well, Callum Johnson dropped it. You know what I mean? And there's not too many people who can say that. So that tells you that Callum Johnson, in terms of one punch power, could be the hardest hitter in the division. And as I've said earlier with Deontay Wilder, when you got serious power like that, you can never really write a man off.
Yeah.
So it takes his one shot in a split second, the fight could be over.
Yeah. You know what the most frustrating thing about this all is we're getting excited about it. We're talking about it. You know what I mean? The light heavyweights in domestically and internationally. You know what I mean? It's very strong, you know, very strong. It's deep. We can talk about it. We can salivate over these type of matchups. Will they get made? We were doing the same thing at welterweight. We were doing the same thing at heavyweight. We, you know, to be fair, we did get some of the fights at bantamweight. But listen, man, this is like a circle with boxing. We get excited about all of these guys. We want to see them fight each other. But for some reason or whatever, we just don't get round to seeing it all, man. Look at welterweight. You know what I mean? Yeah. Very disappointing. So let's hope that we can see some of these guys mix it up. Let's hope.
And I'll be interested to see how Anthony Yard, who's also a big mate of mine, shout out to Anthony Yard, but he was disappointing, let's be honest, in his loss to Lyndon Alpha, but it wasn't an embarrassment. You know what I mean? He didn't get hurt, dropped or stopped or anything like that. And he's made some changes to his training team. And I know Anthony well. He's a very determined guy. And his all-round skills are audacious, man. And he can punch, trust me. So he'll be coming back. So, yeah, you can't write him off either, man. So, yeah, man. And Craig, like I said, he's done well. Listen, man, that division is lit right now. So, yeah, I'd love to see how that all shakes up. You know what I mean? Maybe one or two of them can win world titles and we can have some unifications in this country. That would be amazing.
Well, it'd be great. Let's see if it actually comes about. How about the fight overseas in America? Did you catch that? Lewis Neri against Brandon Figueroa.
Yeah, I did.
We picked, I mean, again, another prediction got wrong here. But like we thought it'd be close. We favored Lewis Neri, both of them undefeated, something to prove. Brandon Figueroa had the better form going in. And in the actual fight itself, I had Lewis Neri up. I think he was winning. But Brandon Figueroa, obviously, he was never out of it. And in the 7th round, we saw that body shot that took Lewis Neri out. And great win there for Brandon Figueroa.
Yeah, I mean, listen, it was a bit of a slugfest. There weren't much skills on show. It was a bit of a machismo, Mexican sort of stand there and slug and last man standing type of thing, which on this occasion it was Figueroa. And yeah, I did see the fight. It was an entertaining fight. Good finish. I have to say, though, he's got a cool boy Steph Fulton next, isn't he? And I think that Fulton will be too much for Figueroa. Yeah. But we'll see. We'll see.
Yeah, very good fight here. Mr. KWX Ben has put, who is the next real pay-per-view star? Sorry, who is the next real UK pay-per-view star? That's a hard pick, especially if AJ gets done by either Usyk or Fury. Who is in line, would you say, as the next UK pay-per-view star? I know a lot of people have mentioned recently Conor Benn has the potential to do that with his sort of style, his charisma, his personality, still unbeaten. And obviously his dad is a legend in Nigel Benn. Can you think of many others in the UK? I mean, Dylan White, he's a pay-per-view now, you have to say, because his fights are on box office. I mean, who else is out there? I mean, like in terms of becoming a pay-per-view star, not in terms, you don't have to be the best fighter, but pay-per-view star. Maybe Josh Taylor is fighting this weekend. Could he be that guy?
I think what happens with pay-per-view is often it's not just the fighter, it's the type of fights you're involved in as well. You know what I mean? So, yeah, I think that a lot of it does depend on that. Who they're going to be fighting next and where and stuff like that. That will obviously...
Yeah, the fight, the level of the fight.
Yeah, the level of the fight will determine how attractive it is to potential pay-per-view purchasers. So, yeah, man, and listen, we've... there's some very good fighters in this country, man. You know, we went through a little bit of a blip, didn't we, earlier on, where a couple of guys were getting beaten, Josh Warrington and one or two other guys got beat. But... yeah, I mean, as we're moving on throughout the year, man, you know what I mean? Some of the British guys, Coley had an excellent win. Some of our other guys, man, are looking good. So,
Yeah, a few people saying Okoli, some people saying Conor Ben. EJ20 has put here, we have 4. I think we got more. We got Fury's a champion as well, but he's put Sonny Edwards, Taylor, Okoli, and AJ.
Well, let's be honest, AJ is already a pay-per-view star. You're right in saying that Taylor, especially if he beats Ramirez this weekend, he'll be up there. His next fight will probably be pay-per-view against someone like Terence Crawford or something like that. So, what's this?
Mr. KWX Ben has put, just because Okoli is making grime music don't mean he's going to be the next pay-per-view star.
I don't think Lawrence is there yet, although he won the title in fairly devastating fashion. But again, if he can make the big fights, the unification fights, then there probably will be pay-per-view.
DS has put here, Josh Taylor could be the next pay-per-view star. Great style to watch in the ring, and he's hardly shy outside the ring. DS, I don't know if you caught the show earlier, but this is the sort of thing we're saying. Look, you've just literally listed it there with Josh Taylor. Great style in the ring, not a shy character outside of the ring. Yet this fight here against Ramirez this weekend hasn't been promoted well enough. Not for me anyway. Not for me.
Yep, I agree.
EJ20 has put here, Fury is American. Conrad Boxing has put here, he'll probably move to heavyweight at some point. He's talking about Okoli. Big Lou has said here, Conor Ben, when he fights for his first title, that could be pay-per-view. And Sully's put here, Conor Ben versus Chris Eubank Jr. in 2024, 10 million pay-per-view buys, fight of the century.
There's a big disparity in the weights there, man. I mean, Conor Ben's a welter. He's not even a very big welterweight. And then you've got Chris Eubank Jr., who's a big middleweight, who's fought at super middleweight before. So I don't see that fight happening.
Well, that's why it says 2024.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm not so sure.
Ian Hamilton has said here, the whole DAZN model has been around saying pay-per-view is dead. So if Matchroom go full on DAZN, then the pay-per-view discussion is diluted a bit, but who knows? Makes a good point there.
Yeah, that's a good point. Well, when you think about it, DAZN is pay-per-view because you're paying every month separately for it anyway.
That's a subscription, it's a subscription, isn't it?
I can't, mind you, I mean, the rates currently are very reasonable. I mean, it's only a few quid a month. I've subscribed and it's well worth it compared to, you know, I mean, some of the other entertainment outlets out there. So, yeah.
EJ20 has put here, Sky Sports are more bothered about Logan Paul versus Floyd Mayweather. You're going to be tuning into that?
No, hell no. And
let's end it. Let's end it on that. Let's end it on Floyd.
That's a good way to end the show, man. Talking about that nonsense, you know what I mean? That is absolute nonsense, man. And I was going to say the fact that Sky are promoting that sort of says a lot about where they're going now that Eddie's moving his operations elsewhere. So if that's what's to come from them, it could be a real poor period for boxing as far as Sky's concerned, man, because surely no one wants to see that, do they?
Nah.
Do you know of any person that's going to pay money to watch that? And the types of people that will want to watch that will be the type of people who are going to want to stream it. No one's going to pay hard-earned money to watch that, surely. But then again, you know what I mean?
Maybe the YouTubers.
I'm a lot older and it appeals to the YouTube generation. So, you know what I mean?
Do you know what stood out for me in that was the way how openly critical Eddie Hearn was of it. And the way how he distanced himself from that, maybe it tells me a bit more, but like he literally said, you know, you can't blame me for that one. That's got nothing to do with me, this fight. Maybe that's
the trouble with that is it's slightly hypocritical because he was the one that was behind the KSI Logan Paul fight, that first fight they had, wasn't it?
Yeah.
So some people are looking at it and saying, well, it's a little bit hypocritical, Eddie, although he's come back and said, well, that was between two YouTubers. This is between a guy who many tout as one of the greatest ever, and he's fighting against a YouTuber who's 0-1 in his so-called professional boxing career. But to me, it's an absolute joke. I've seen a lot of the stuff on YouTube with the gotcha hat thing and all that nonsense. And listen, whether it was staged or not, whether you find that particular videos that coming out of America a couple of weeks ago entertaining or not, to me, it still doesn't do anything for me in terms of selling a Logan Paul versus Floyd fight. I think Floyd, he's running the risk of ruining his legacy, man, by getting involved in this type of stuff. I mean, I thought it was distasteful to see Logan Paul standing up there, man. You know, the way he was talking to Floyd, I thought that was hella disrespectful. You know what I mean? The stuff he was saying about Floyd. And I'm thinking, I'm looking at Floyd with that silly tracksuit he had on with his hair all over the place. And I just thought, bro, you're allowing yourself to come down to this level just for a few more quid. I mean, you're always bragging about how rich you are. I mean, okay, you're going to make some more millions, but really, is it worth what you're doing to yourself in terms of your legacy and how you're coming across? I just thought it was shambolic, man.
Do you know when
it was hard for me to watch? It was cringeworthy.
Do you know when Floyd's stock really dropped low for me? When he came over to the UK, when Gervonta Davis was fighting one of the Walsh brothers, and you saw the open disrespect that they had for Floyd. The Walsh brothers, they were literally, they had no respect for him, man.
Yeah,
and like, I don't know if you remember that press conference. You could still see it. They didn't treat Floyd with no respect. And this guy is supposed to be the best fighter of our generation. Do you know what I mean? Like, he was broken so many records, undefeated, and look what he's becoming.
I'll tell you one thing. I've criticized him in the past for stuff that he's done outside the ring. But I'll tell you one thing. You will not see Canelo doing this type of stuff with.
No.
When he hangs him up, you will not see him doing this. He's got far too much respect for himself. And that's to see Floyd, and I'm going to use a quite controversial word now, to see himself prostituting himself for a few more million in this way, fighting a guy that towers over him. And it just seems so ridiculous, man. You know what I mean? It's embarrassing, bro. You know what I mean? It's embarrassing. And to see the way he was treating Floyd with so much disrespect, laughing at him, saying he can't read. And, you know what I mean? It was just awful to watch, man. And I was like, Floyd, I mean, I know you love your money and all that, man. But, you know what I mean? Your legacy, your status as a man, forget anything to do with boxing. You just look like an idiot right now. You're in your 40s. And you've got this 24-year-old clown, you know what I mean? The man should be begging you for a selfie, and he's there talking to you like that in front of millions of people. I'm like, come on, Floyd, man. Yes, you're going to make a few million out of it, but it's an exhibition fight. It means nothing. And, you know what I mean? You've got everything to lose from this, apart from the money you're making. I mean, okay, some people, you know what I mean, will say you're making the money, but then that's the same mentality that a prostitute has, isn't it?
Mm.
You know what I mean? So that's why I use the term. You're prostituting your name.
What happened to the smart investment, man?
You probably don't even need. You're only going to spend it on trinkets anyway. Like, come on, man. It's sad to see, to be honest.
Yeah. Yeah. I think we've given that fight a bit too much airtime anyway, man. WM has put here, I'm a big Floyd fan, but I really hope he gets beat. People just had enough of it.
Listen, man, Floyd Mayweather should be on every time there's a big fight. The commentators, the analysts should be going to Floyd and saying, listen, you're an absolute legend of the sport. What do you think is going to happen? So, for example, this week, they should be reeling Floyd out, flying him into Vegas. He lives in Vegas, and they should be putting that camera in front of Floyd's face, break this fight down, Floyd. Who's going to win and why? That's the type of roles he should be occupying in boxing now. He's got a stable of fighters. He should be working with them. He should be looking to bring along the next big thing, the next Floyd Mayweather. Instead, he's engaged in this buffoonery with some idiot, you know what I mean? Some idiot YouTuber.
Well,
it's just pathetic, man. It's a circus.
The thing is, with Floyd, I mean, he was, you know, we saw him training Devin Haney. We saw him training, you know, a few people in his gym. He's got the Mayweather Promotions thing, but what's going on with that? Like, I don't know where that's at. Like, who are you training now? Have you got a young fighter up and coming? Like, can Floyd, he can't stay out the limelight. And as much as I respect Floyd and his career, what he's achieved, he can't stay out of it, can he? He can't stay out of the limelight, man.
You've hit the nail on the head, man. The man's ego is, he just can't allow himself to give somebody else the platform to shine. It's always got to be about him. You know what I mean? Sad. And he's going to carry on, you know, until one day he actually does get knocked out by one of these guys. And imagine how that's going to look.
Yeah.
Even if he gets decked or even if he doesn't look good. Not that I'll be watching it anyway. I mean, listen, I'm sure people are going to upload clips of it. So I might come across a clip. But I will not be buying it. I won't really be watching all of the fight or the so-called fights and exhibition. But you imagine if Floyd was to get decked or worse still, get knocked out. How is that going to look in terms of his legacy in years to come when you're comparing him with the all-time greats? The Haglers, the Hearns, the Durans, you know what I mean, and people like that, and they're going to show you a clip of him getting starched by some YouTube. Nah, man, not for me.
Sule said here, Floyd's 50th pro boxing win is literally against Conor McGregor. He doesn't care about his legacy or reputation. It's all about the money for Floyd.
Facts.
Yeah. Big Lou said Floyd isn't bothered about the money. He's bothered about the fame. And
well, yeah, I think he loves money. He's self-confessed lover of money. But yeah, he's spot on about the fame. He loves the fame almost as much as the money.
And EJ20's put, this is Floyd's humiliation ritual. Well, I mean,
the man sold himself, man, for money and money and fame, and it doesn't sit well with me at all. It's awful to see.
Yeah, replace fame with attention. So yeah, I think we've given Floyd a bit too much airtime, and I hate to say that, but I'd say, all right, we've given this fight too much airtime. I'll say on this show. Let's just
a fight, is it? Event? Is it?
Yeah, it's an event. It's an event. I mean, but let's talk. Let's finish off, you know, on just giving a last mention about Taylor and Ramirez this weekend. Undisputed show.
Floyd and Logan Paul. This is an event that I'm very much looking forward to. I can't wait. I'll be staying up till the early hours of the morning, and I'm sure we'll be talking about it a lot in the coming weeks. I'm sure it's going to be a great night. I'm pulling for Taylor, but you know what? May the best man win, and let's see how it transpires.
For sure, man. Listen, I want to big up everybody in the chat today. Thank you all for dropping your comments, man. Much appreciated. Don't forget, if you haven't liked the video, just click that like. It doesn't cost you anything. Share the video, subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. And listen, guys, we'll be back next week. Thank you all for joining. And enjoy the rest of your evening, man. Big up everybody in the chat. And I'll catch you all later on. Peace.